Just a few weeks ago, I discussed how Derek Chauvin gained a new appeal path for his conviction for the 2020 supposed murder of George Floyd. A new medical opinion about how stress hormones likely caused heart failure. So now Chauvin's team has been granted access to Floyd's autopsy materials, including heart tissue, for re-examination. Well, now maybe there's another angle. The fact that a key witness at the trial just straight up lied on the stand, under oath, of course. Now, supposedly it's defamatory to say that, at least that's the basis for her current lawsuit, but in trying to show that claim is false, the evidence is showing the opposite, actually. And now there is a long line of her police colleagues forming to say that, yeah, she lied. In 2023, Alpha News in Minnesota released The Fall of Minneapolis, a documentary about the George Floyd incident and all the chaos and destruction that followed, including the Derek Chauvin trial. One of the people featured in the documentary is Katie Blackwell, now the assistant chief at the Minneapolis Police Department. She was then an inspector at the department. She testified at the Chauvin trial about, among other things, the neck or upper back restraint that Chauvin used on George Floyd. And she said that Chauvin must have improvised that method because the Minneapolis Police Department does not train that technique.
Is this a trained technique that's by the Minneapolis Police Department?
What we train is using one arm or two arm to do a neck restraint.
And how does this differ?
I don't know what kind of improvised position that is. So that's not what we train.
Except they do, or they did, and it was known at the time of the trial that they did. There were slide visuals from the Minneapolis Police Department training program provided that clearly showed the use of the technique that Chauvin used, called the maximal restraint technique, though the training did specify the method should only be used against handcuffed subjects who are combative or still posing a threat. George Floyd, of course, had strongly resisted for several minutes leading up to Chauvin's use of that restraint. The debate is not whether the Minneapolis Police Department trained that method. They did. The debate is whether Derek Chauvin used it properly, or perhaps should have released George Floyd from that position sooner. And so, in the documentary, the Alpha News crew said it sure seemed like Katie Blackwell lied. She said definitively, "We do not train that method." But they definitively did. They did when Derek Chauvin was trained. They did when she said that on the stand, and they continued to for 2 more long racially oppressive years, actually, until 2023. But because of that claim that she lied, or that it sure seemed like she lied, Katie Blackwell very boldly filed a defamation lawsuit against Alpha News in October. Blackwell says the supposed lies told about her have clouded her career. Her lawsuit highlights a few examples of what she says are damaging lies against her, not just in the movie, but in journalist Liz Collins' corresponding book called They're Lying: The Media, the Left, and the Death of George Floyd. In the book, Collin writes, quote, "It doesn't seem like Blackwell knows how MPD officers are trained, or maybe she was lying." Another passage questions whether she and then police chief Medaria Arredondo and another police lieutenant who testified at trial were telling the truth. And a third passage says that Blackwell was, quote, "lying by omission, if not lying outright." Now, of course, the bar for a public figure like then police inspector, now assistant police chief Katie Blackwell to win a defamation suit is high. To defeat free speech protections, she would have to demonstrate actual malice, as in the Alpha News team knew what they were saying about her was false, but they said it anyway. But there is a much more simple defense against defamation claims from a public figure or a private person or anybody. The truth. Because if what Alpha News said is true, then there is no defamation case at all. And so that is exactly the defense that Alpha News is now presenting. Hey, Katie Blackwell, we didn't damage you with lies because we didn't lie, and not just according to us, and not just according to training materials already presented, but now according to dozens of your own law enforcement colleagues. Alpha News filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, and in support of it, they included sworn declarations from 49 former Minneapolis Police Department officers, 33 of whom served with Blackwell personally, and one who's still on staff. And they all say yes, the restraint method Chauvin used was a formal part of departmental training. 14 of those officers go the extra step. They say, again, themselves sworn under oath through this declaration, that yes, Katie Blackwell lied. She committed perjury when she testified otherwise at the Chauvin trial. So hey, I guess the good news, Katie Blackwell, is now you have 14 more defamation lawsuits you can file to try to cash in on your disconnect with the truth. Either that or Alpha News was right, and she did lie. And that's the thing, Alpha News didn't even phrase it definitively. They did not say categorically, Katie Blackwell is a liar. They said it seemed like, maybe, possibly, the circumstances support the plausible interpretation that she might have uttered a false statement, which means there's a good argument that Alpha News was too generous, actually. They didn't defame her. They gave her the benefit of too much doubt based on the facts. Alpha News would have been fully justified just playing the music video in their documentary instead.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
And it's not just that dozens of Katie Blackwell's police colleagues are challenging her statements. There are also new photos of Minneapolis Police Department training programs practicing the maximal restraint technique in several different scenarios. And the full extent of that photography is even more embarrassing for Katie Blackwell because she personally did it too. She personally used the forbidden neck kneel. Not even in a training scenario, but on a real guy on the street. This image is from 2014. And she's restraining this guy during the riot after the University of Minnesota hockey team lost the national championship. It's so strange that both she and Chauvin coincidentally improvised the same unauthorized move. Either they're kindred spirits of police brutality, or they were, in fact, both trained to do that, contrary to her claims. And to that point, this photo wasn't recovered from some activist's secret stash of police abuse evidence or something. It's from the Minneapolis Police Department's yearbook, meaning the department didn't see this as abuse. They saw it as proper trained technique, because it was, despite her statement at trial that she has no idea where this improvised method came from. Complicating matters for Blackwell isn't just the evidence or the constitutional protections against defamation lawsuits from public figures. It's also that the state of Minnesota last year passed additional law to protect this sort of speech. The Public Expression Protection Act, part of a national movement to establish these protections state by state, provides additional speech protections for matters of public concern. And of course, that's exactly what the documentary and the book are. They are commentaries on matters of public concern, policing, criminal justice, trust in public institutions, and more. The motion to dismiss the suit was filed on Monday. Perhaps the court will grant it, but that's yet to be decided. Even if the case proceeds, though, it is very hard to see it succeeding, primarily because the accusation against Blackwell isn't just about a public figure or a matter of public concern. It's true. And it's not defamation if it's true. With all these questions, reporter Liz Collin confronted Katie Blackwell at the police department this week, apparently one other than the one they sacrificed to the flames of the mostly peaceful mob, but there was no actual exchange.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Yeah, actually, I have a few questions for you. Are you aware that 14 former and current Minneapolis police officers say you lied during Derek Chauvin's trial and perjured yourself? What's the truth here? I'd like to talk to you about the lawsuit you filed against myself and Alpha News. 34 police officers have come forward to say that MRT was trained by the Minneapolis Police Department. I've been trying to get in touch with you. You have obviously declined my interview request. Don't you think people deserve the truth?
And even though it's not a great look, it's not surprising either. When involved in litigation or prosecution, you speak through lawyers and court filings. Anything otherwise isn't usually smart. The problem for Blackwell is her court filings aren't smart either. So far, she has achieved nothing but irony. Her overly aggressive quest to disprove the claim that she's maybe a liar is instead proving it conclusively. She is for sure a liar, and whatever doubt possibly remains, if she digs in anymore, she will remove all of it. So somebody, please, do the right thing and stop this lady for her own good before she damages herself any further. That's the other irony. She would have been much better off if someone humanely exercised an improvised restraint technique on her, actually. See, just like an excited meth and fentanyl delirium or too much passive-aggressive Midwestern rage provoked by a devastating hockey loss, all she needs is just a gentle knee of compassion to calm her down and get her back to sanity. But what a shame that nobody's actually trained to do it. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Come on.